So today's book is Wire Your Brain for Confidence, The Science of Conquering Self-Doubt. I got a copy of this book when I went through my certification in applied positive psychology, and Louisa was my facilitator, and she really helped me in so many ways personally, and has become a friend of mine. And just went through 6-month program with her and really enjoyed it. So when I found out she had a book, of course, I had to buy it, and I really wanted to include it in our challenge in one of the months. And so it's been this month in particular. And so for those of you, we have extra guests this month. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about our framework. And we've switched it up a little bit because Louisa's with us. So I also want everybody to know that we have people on that have joined us that haven't read the book. And that's one of the things that we really want to encourage people is just come and join us for conversation, because even if you haven't read something, maybe you'll get enough from it to go to practice some of these great concepts in the books in your own life, or you'll get motivated and say, I really need to grab that book. So that's a part of what Laura and I decided when we pulled this together, that we just wanted everybody to feel like they could come and sit and observe or contribute to the conversation. So today we're going to do our quick intros. Usually we have a smaller group, and so we do like to just go around and kind of tell a little quick note about yourself so everybody knows everyone. And usually we do a round robin, and then we have a couple questions, but because we knew we were going to have a bigger group, the next step would be we're going to go back around that circle, and just one piece that really resonated with you, or something that you're going to use personally or to help somebody else. We'll keep it to one this time because we really want to have some conversation with Louisa. And I will open it up for people that haven't read the book. Even if you're listening and something resonates with you, feel free to share. If you'd rather just not, that's whatever's in your comfort. This is a safe place for us to talk about this book. And then we'll open up comments and talk about the next book that Laura's picked for us. So we're recording, so watch your P's and Q's. Laura can always bleep us, but just be aware that this is going to be posted on Laura's YouTube, so it is going to be out there for other people to view. If you share something in this group that makes you have pause afterwards, we can edit that out for you. We really want you to be in the discussion, but not feel like you have a, oh no, I said that, and it's going to be out there moment. So we're happy to edit. And everyone's entitled to your opinions, and have some fun with it. So our usual agenda is overall helpfulness, relevance to your audience, ability to put into action, and compared to similar books maybe you've read, or some positive psychology or confidence books. And another point might be a favorite quote or point made in the book. What did you least like about it? A thumbs up or thumbs down? We're not doing that today because everybody I talk to loves this book. We're just going to all come together. Plus Louisa's here. Are we going to there's no way. But so we're going to take the two pieces out of that. Louisa's laughing, but I think we all know that we came in here either knowing that we want to read this book, or that this has just been a really great read for those that had the chance to read it. So we're going to focus more on the first two categories. Next up is Work the System by Sam Carpenter. We'll get a little commercial from Laura at the end of the discussion on this book, but please mark your calendars, October 29th at noon. All right, we're back. Hi, everybody. I will go ahead and just kick it off. My name is Lisa Sears. I have a coaching and consulting business that helps people with their capacity building. And all the programs that I really help people with is layered with some form of positive psychology. It was a program that absolutely changed my life. And it's been really great to just have that layer to share with my clients and those that I care about, my friends and family. So it ties really in today to that book. And I'm going to let Laura go ahead and introduce herself. And then Laura, would you just pick the next person in line?
Sure. Thanks, Lisa. And wonderful introduction as well. And super glad that Louisa is here with us today. This is the first time, so we're in September, first time we've had an author join us. So this is exciting. And Lisa has nothing but wonderful things to say about you and has been super just smiling from ear to ear ever since this came up when she found out that you were coming on here. So I'm a business consultant for small, medium-sized business, focusing on leadership development and strategy, and also a career coach for environmental career seekers. So we're sort of operating two different brands, and avid book reader, but up until this group had been, absorbing books faster than I could actually put stuff into action. So that was the reason we created this group, was so that we could stop, have a discussion, talk about different ways to actually do stuff with this information. And they were all books we'd read before. So next month will be a book I have read that I'm pretty sure that most of you have not. And that's the great thing about Lisa and I, is we have different ends of the spectrum as far as our personalities. So we pick different types of books. So it's hopefully well-rounded. And then when we get into 2021, we'll do some others that we have read before, and then we'll pick some new ones. And also get some input from those of you who are frequent guests on here, so that we're not just at that point picking our own books. But I'm going to hand it over to Louisa so she can do an intro of herself first, and then she can pick the next person.
Thank you, Laura. And I'm really, really thrilled to be here. And, Lisa has a special place in my heart. We certainly connected during CAP. So I'm really grateful to be here. I'm so thrilled that you're reading my book, or you're interested in hearing about the book. It was a labor of love. So I am I'm a speaker, an author, a well-being expert. I'm the founder of the Canadian Positive Psychology Association. So since I did my master's degree of applied positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania in 2009, I have been essentially doing, all of my work really revolves around positive psychology. And really trying to improve the well-being of not just Canadians, but people around the world. So I'm passionate about it. I love it. I'm starting a new Audible series podcast, which will launch in January. So I'm really excited about that. And, trying to get through COVID, right? So, and feeling resilient and feeling good at the same time. So thanks for having me here. And I will pass it over to Tracy.
Can you hear me okay? Yes? Okay. Sometimes I say no hair, no brains, but today I got it. I'm Tracy Chamberlain Higginbotham. I do officially go by 3 names because I believe women should keep their maiden names somewhere in their name so they're tracked through history. But I have been I celebrate my 25th anniversary as a woman entrepreneur this year. I have, yes, exciting. I started with an event planning company, which was my background in higher education, and in 2005 created Women Ties, because it was when women entrepreneurship was really becoming a career option around Syracuse and central New York. And I had women ties, or women entrepreneurs, that wanted me to produce programs where they could come together and meet and network. I have a very feminist business model. I believe women should buy from women first and foremost, and I'm known for that. Women Ties promotes, publicizes, and unites women entrepreneurs in order to help them create new economic ties and to brand and market their companies in order to make more revenue and in some way help eradicate pay inequality. I have a women's athletic network, and I also have a women's equality division. I have been to 4 of the past women's marches in DC and also in New York City, and I plan to go on October 17th. So that's why.
Is that all, Tracy?
I don't lack in confidence, but I'm inspired by women that are still very confident. So I will turn it over to Jody.
And Jody, before you go, Adrienne's actually in a place where she can't talk, but she's watching. So nobody pick Adrienne. She says hello to she sent me a note and said, just tell everyone I said hello. Adrian's a part of our normal group that usually shows up. So a lot of us already know Adrian. So hi, Adrian.
I don't know, Adrian not being able to talk, I don't know if that's a good thing at all. And my sister joined today. She's listening. She's driving. So thanks for allowing her in. My name is Jody Hatch. I live in upstate New York. I act as a business consultant, if you will. I kind of specialize in finding gaps in systems that have a lot to do with emotional baggage that I see in their business development. So that seems to be where I'm able to identify some glitches in systems. What was the other thing, Lisa? Oh, that was it. We're going to come back to all the good things, and you limited it to one. This is a problem.
Wow. We'll go with it.
Look at my sheet. So no, I really enjoyed the book. Looking forward to our discussion today.
Great. I'll go ahead and pick Jen next.
Oh, I unmuted. I'm Jennifer Daly. I live in Central New York also. I work for Gateway Consulting and Coaching. I partner with some fantastic women. I get to be a virtual assistant to Jody. I've been involved in a lot of coaching, like seminars. I am enjoying everything I do. I'm really good at organizing, customer service, systems and processes. And I absolutely love this group and our discussions. I will go with Consuela.
Thank you, Jennifer, or Jen. This is my first time to the group. Thank you. I joined back when it started, and I have been too busy to join any of the calls, and hopefully that's changing. I've been in accounting corporate world for quite a while, and I'm transitioning to be more of a consultant. So I'm very excited about that. Take back some of the time I need for myself and prioritize different things in my life. And I met Lisa a year and a half, 2 years ago. We really connected over a couple, 2 or 3, 4 bottles of wine. We lost count as someone kept filling our glasses up. It's quite interesting, but I did not get to read the book. I apologize for that, but I'm very interested in listening to everything you guys have to share on it and have it in my list to read now that I'll have a little more time to do that. And who is left? Kim?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Tapley. I am in Tampa, Florida. My career is I am in environmental regulatory. So I work for our local Environmental Protection Commission, and I'm in charge of wetland permitting down here. And I agree with Jody. I don't like this new rule of only talking about one thing of the book, but I think it was a great book, and I'm excited for our discussion.
And Tanya, I think, why don't you go ahead? I know we heard about your situation, but let's hear about you.
Okay, so I am new to the group. I just met Laura last Thursday. And so got the book, and I've already got tabs in it, which is interesting. I buy a lot of books that I don't read because I don't think I have time, but I made the time in the last 4 or 5 days to read the book. So it's interesting, some actually reflection myself last night on that, because I think sometimes I hold myself back, and once you put your mind to it and you commit, you can do it. So I loved the book. It connected really with some of the conversation Laura and I have. I'm in Syracuse, New York. I am the director of operations of an organization called On Point for College, which is a nonprofit that helps individuals get into college and training programs. Spent about a decade on Wall Street before I came back home. As you heard, I have an 11-year-old. So I read, and I think the introduction, that decision to leave the corporate sector, and not only being okay with the decision, but being intentional and owning it and saying this is the direction I want to go in, which Lisa has heard this before. I have a doctorate, so Dr. Adrian, I don't use it, and that's probably one of my other things I need to think about, is I don't use the doctor. I am starting very, very slowly to make my way into nonprofit capacity building. My dissertation was on founding executive director. I have the business card. I have a photo shoot tomorrow. My husband's like, I feel like it's a nonprofit because you're doing pro bono projects and you're spending money on marketing. I'm like, this is how I got to get there. This is how I got to get there. So, so I am super excited to be here and meet all of you, and having met Laura last week. And I've known Lisa for years. So she's been gently and not so gently pushing me to be confident enough to take the next steps in my journey. So
Glad to have you.
Now you have both of us pushing you.
Hey, Laura, can you let Adrian back in? We always love our tech stuff. I mean, that's why Laura and I are good partners. I mean, I forget to start with Louisa and she puts me back in there.
Yep, I didn't see that she was waiting.
Yeah, that's all right. So I think we've heard from the group that we probably can't just keep it to one thing. So I'm going to start off, since this is my second read of the book. I will keep mine more concise to make more room for those of you that want to share. I feel like this conversation is going to be so much fun. I loved the stories in this book because, knowing Louisa, I picture her on the bus. I picture her telling people that love failure that they're, are on acid. Like I could hear her through the whole read, which was, it was just a wonderful thing for me to read this a second time through. I think, just like Laura and I talk about, when we read things more than once, we do start to practice them. We're like, oh yeah, I forgot this amazing thing. And so even going through the end of chapter exercises again, I mean, I think we have to keep repeating some of these practices. I really loved and appreciated that the exercises and the conciseness at the end of the chapter, because I can see gifting this to someone and having them step in it just by asking them to do those things and get them to, like, it's a great way to step into some of these conversations with some of my coaching clients that don't have the confidence. The other thing I would say is what really resonated in the book to me was, I think about all these amazing women that I'm surrounded by, and we have a common story, and it is very similar to the one in this book. And we are lifelong learners, and we are go-getters, and we often feel so alone. Like, I think that's why we pull together in several, I mean, I have a bunch of women that I didn't have around me 2-3 years ago, because we've had this common story. And I think that was really the thing in the book that just reminded me all of you, and that how we can be so confident on the outside and still have so many of the same thought patterns on the inside. And no matter, I think a lot of times we kind of judge other people and say, oh, they don't need this, right? They don't need this tool. They're so confident. But even as we show up as a group of 14 women who are confident, we can always work on those things. So for me, it was just made me think of all of you and made me want to say, like, let's keep talking about this stuff. The more vulnerable we are with each other, I think the faster our momentum we can lean on each other. And the only other comment I would say is the so what that Louisa talks about, for me, is it's why not me? And I really love that thought. It's like, oh, I wish I could do that thing. Well, why can't it be me? Is a huge confident building statement that I love to use, because if I see it role modeled in someone else, I know that I can do it, because we all start from a similar playing field. And it's just that, why not me? I can have the confidence to have the life that I want to live. And so I will wrap it up there. We have a lot of excited people. Louisa, do you mind if we do a quick round robin and then we open up the discussion, or did you have any questions for the group?
No, do whatever you want. Yeah.
I think we'd love to hear from you more, but I think we're like excited to share.
Yeah.
Did anybody want to volunteer to go first? I'll do a long pause. Tanya will go. Tanya is me. I'm always like, me first.
Hold it in. I gotta try to hold it in. I gotta actively listen, not here just to respond. So I really enjoyed this book. Like I just shared, I have a doctorate, and I was telling Laura the other day, I'm spending my evenings studying for HR certifications, not because I need them, but because I feel like it will validate my experience over the last 20 years. And so that is, that speaks directly to the book. Unnecessary, and is it really the best use of my time? Probably not. So I really enjoyed this. What I found interesting, a couple of things, is that positive psychology is coming up more in very interesting ways in my life. When I was working on my doctorate, I looked at appreciative inquiry. And David Copperwriter, I read, and there's a David McCollum, who is one of the senior people at Lemoyne College, has a group that really works on positive, uses appreciative inquiry and positive action. Even my doctorate was looking at founders that said they were engaging in succession planning. So thinking about abundance and versus deficit thinking. So it's interesting how it's come, full circle. There's a couple of things that really connected with me. I'll go back to my book. Is it the idea of, and I've never thought about self-efficacy this way, and that courage to act, and that defining moment when you want to say yes, but you're stopping yourself, and sort of, success comes not from one big yes, but hundreds of small yeses along the way. And that really, really connected with me. As someone who can sometimes have a fixed mindset and overthink things and think, okay, how could this go wrong? Having that courage to say yes to the life you really want. And so that I wrote it on you can see the boards behind me, my morning affirmations, courage to say yes to the life I want. And so that really connected with me. So thank you.
Tanya when we were introducing ourselves, she was telling me all the stuff she was doing, and I was like, you're doing that thing that's in the book. That's it. So if you don't mind, I'll just roll off of that and give my pointers, because that's really was the biggest takeaway for me. Lisa and I were just laughing that I don't overplan, I underplan. I don't have the thing where I worry about if it's wrong. If you go on my website, there's spelling errors everywhere. I don't care. If someone tells me, I'll fix it. If I see it, I fix it, but it doesn't bother me. But there are plenty of things that I do. But what's really helped me is to be able to use this with other people and help them, point things out to them and see what they're doing, as well as myself. But I have a coachee right now who is making a huge leap in her career. She wants to do something extraordinary, and I can see all of these things she's doing. She doesn't believe in herself. She's self-doubting. She's looking for the right, the perfect certification or the perfect degree. I'm like, it doesn't matter. And now I'm showing her other people who are in the field she wants to go in who have art degrees. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You just have to keep working forward. But I literally have already just pulled some examples from here to say, you're doing these things. So it will help me just be better at what I'm doing. Because the things that I do are fixate on the bad comments. If I get a survey and 10 people say it's wonderful and the one person says, it was okay, I'm like, what? Why didn't you love it? So, and then I also, same thing, if I have 6 clients who succeed and one of them kind of doesn't do the work and whatever, it's, I feel like I failed somehow. So definitely appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, and I do have one criticism. I'm not going to get you away with this, Lisa. You can't take it off the shelf. My one
Oh my God, I don't know what to do with her. You
got to read it and hear her voice. I had to struggle through the pages. I love audiobooks. So Louisa, I need an audiobook.
Oh, that's a good criticism.
I should talk to Audible about doing the book.
Yeah, I love to hear books written in the author's, told by the author's voice. And it helps me get through them a lot faster too.
Yeah.
I got nervous there for a minute. I'm not going to lie.
You did. You immediately went into those things.
So Laura and I, we have so much fun. We are just polar opposites, and it's been a joy to be together. I mean, it's so much fun, but I do, she always has that one thing, and I'm like, that made me sweat, Laura. Thank you for just encouraging Louisa to do an audio book. That's perfect.
I'm going to pass it on to Kim She always has great ideas for the books too.
Mhm.
Thank you, Laura. I did. I loved this book. This was the perfect book because for me, I thought it was the trifecta. You had your concepts, there is the statistics to back it up, different scientific journal articles and references. And then you had the personal stories that ended up tying the concept and the statistics together. So me, in a science background, that was awesome. You automatically got me sucked in. There's just so many things to talk about this book. I started writing them down, and I don't know how many pages I am. But what was interesting to me is I just noticed this today. I would write down what I thought were the key points for me to remember and to utilize for the future. And then just some little tidbits. One of them was the garbage truck analogy, that there are some people that just are garbage trucks and carry around garbage. And I got a call from one of my newer employees. She's a newer scientist. She's only been with us 7 months or so. And someone ended up, calling and yelling at her for something that was out of her control. And so she was calling and talking to me about it. And I thought, how in the world am I going to get this young female scientist to understand that it's not her fault what happened to her? And so immediately, garbage truck analogy popped in. And I'm not an hour and a half ago, I was just explaining to her about the garbage truck. So I think this book is the perfect book for this time for me right now, to be able to pull these bits and pieces and not only help me see in my life that I'm not gonna, try and master every single life domain, which is what I've tried to do in the past and learned that that is just not feasible to do. And then to move forward and help other people that need help and guidance as well. So I give this book 2 thumbs up. It was fantastic. I loved it very much. Thank you so much for Louisa for writing it. I can tell you thought about this book a long time when you wrote it. You can feel that in the book. So it was great. I loved it.
Oh, thanks. That's great. And the Law of the Garbage Truck, that book by David Paulet, certainly changed my life. Like, that was life-changing. He's amazing. He's a very, very close friend now too. And he just continues to offer that kind of guidance. It's just great wisdom.
Kim, we're doing really well with time. Did you want to add another concept? I know you were biting at the bit.
Okay, so what I've started to do, you all know me that I get hard copy books and I dog ear them. And I couldn't get a hard copy book of this one in time. Amazon wouldn't send it to me till like mid-September. So I had to buy the Kindle version. So I would have my Nook up with a Word document on my laptop and I would type my notes. And I just started typing things that really related to me. And the main one was the life domains, that exercise. Because previously I thought I needed to be a perfectionist at everything, as a scientist, as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend. And over time, I've learned that it makes me less interactive with people because I'm always stressed about being a 10 and all those domains. And the story that I had to back that up was I used to love my grandmother's cooking. She would cook from scratch and it would just be the best homemade meals, and I would always love to go over to her house and eat it. And when I first started my passion for cooking, I asked her to show me how she made her spaghetti recipe because that was her famous one. And I remember getting the tomatoes ready to cut them for the sauce. And she goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm cutting the tomatoes for the sauce." She goes to the pantry and she pulls out a jar of ragu. And I said, no. I said, I want to learn your homemade recipe. She goes, honey, you don't need to do it homemade. You don't, it still tastes the same. All you do is doctor it up with some extra spices. This is my recipe. You don't have to spend all that time, working it from scratch. You got other stuff you can do. And so, that's kind of what I learned. It can be simple and delicious, which I think is a cookbook I have, but it's that same, mentality that you don't have to spend all your time making something from scratch. It doesn't need to be that high of a priority. It can be simple and delicious. So that's kind of one of my other big takeaways from this is do the life domain exercise for sure. It's really going to show you what is really important.
I think of all the exercises, the one that I get most comments on is that peace at 6, right? That exercise, peace at 6. And the whole idea that it's okay if you're a 6 at these, because when I saw that research that women, especially younger women, were so concerned with being excellent in 14 different domains of their lives, I thought, no wonder we're always stressed out, and no wonder we're always feeling like we're never good enough, because we think we have to be so high on the totem pole for each one of these domains. It's really such a stressful, anxiety producing situation. And so to just be able to go, I don't have to be a 10 at everything. Like these things I really care about. And so I'll put a lot of energy into that. For the other stuff, like I'm okay if I'm a 6. It's okay. And, I have so many people who, they run into me, they're like, peace at 6. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, it can be transformative when you just let that go.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm fine with ragu. So
love that story. That's a great story. I love it.
From the outside, you would never know that Kim had any struggle doing all of the things that she does. I've never seen anyone handle so much. She has 3 boys and a husband who is a giant child who I love to death. but she has 4 boys at home, that hungry big boys she needs to feed. And then still has time to show up here, read the books every time, have real quality thoughts, take care of her employees, do the wetlands work, and really protect that, do the important work, and get her graduate degree at the same time. So do not underestimate this quiet person here.
Wow.
Thank you, Laura.
We keep saying we're going to have to do the travel around with everybody. We're going to go up to Canada, then we're going to go down to Florida. We're going to see where, I think.
Here, so we've got Saskatchewan on the list too.
Oh yes, and I think Jody's sister lives in California, maybe, or she might be her. Yeah, so I mean, we'll get our women's groups all over. Thank you, Kim. Your perspective is always so much fun for us. So with that, how about you, Jen? I see your mic's open. Are you ready to share some thoughts?
Sure. Side note for Louisa, Lisa is my sister.
Oh.
And as I read this book, I'm like, she has been practicing on me all this time, and I had no idea. So I absolutely love the book. She's taught me to not underestimate how powerful I am and to give me confidence. And I was one of those people that couldn't say thank you if I got a compliment or, yeah, you did that so well. And I'd be like, oh, absolutely. It's wonderful that I found a lot in the book that I already am practicing, but I think it's because Lisa has taught me this. She's put those little ideas in my mind all these years. And I actually have in the margins, I have A for my daughter, Amber. I have a star for me. I have for my other friend, I have her initial. And so I feel like this is one of those books that I'll keep on my desk, always refer back to it. And I loved that you had examples I could understand while I'm reading, like, oh yes, this is a great thought. But what was so helpful was at the end, how here's the example questions I would use. I'm like, oh, aha, I didn't really know how to ask myself the questions, understood the concept. So those confidence habits, absolutely love those. And I will definitely like open up the book, and I have tons of dog ears all through it. And I love having the actual book as well. I'm absolutely thumbs up. And like Laura, the thing that I liked least is I was like, oh my God, I do that. I didn't realize it. It wasn't anything about the book. It was the self-reflection. I was like, oh shoot. And so I will keep reading it. I will probably read it again. And I already called my daughter this morning and said, oh, I've got your next book. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. It's great.
Oh, who has not gone? Jody?
I can say something if
Sure.
nobody else is. I haven't read the book yet, but I just had a comment, and I will get the book because I love supporting and putting my money in the hands of women entrepreneurs. So I think Laura and Lisa invited me to this because I asked them if the book club was only female authors. That's just so me, you know, and they're like, well, this one is. And I said, okay, this one I'll pay attention to. But what I wanted to say about confidence, one of my favorite quotes that came from Catherine Switzer, not everybody knows who Catherine is, but in 1967, she was at SU, and they didn't allow women in the Boston Marathon. And she decided after training that she wanted to run in the Boston Marathon. And so she went. She wasn't trying to be illegal by any sense of imagination. She just wanted to run it. And she got almost pushed out of the 2-mile mark by the race director because he said, there's a damn woman here in the middle of my race. And it was right in front of a media truck. And she said that, you know what, if I don't finish this race, women are going to think they can't run a marathon. And so I'm going to finish it. She ran it. She was disqualified. But the quote that she said and has used ever since is that when you're fearless, you're free. So in 2017, and think about that for your confidence, because when we're fearful of something, we're kind of bound into it. And then we might not be as confident. I ran with her in 2017 on her 50th anniversary with 100 other women. I'd never run a marathon. I did it. I was confident I was going to do it somehow and did. But ever since every time I do something big, it builds the confidence. So just be fearless. And maybe, Louisa, you have that in your book, but it was just something I wanted to share with you from my experiences.
Right. And that is one of the pathways to greater confidence, is go and try it and do it, because then you say, oh, I thought I could do it and I did it. So that means I can do it again, right? It sends a really strong signal in our brain when we try it. And the problem is when we're too afraid to try it, too afraid to take that first step. That's what can stop us. Like that fear can stop us. And so one of the suggestions is to take just a mini step, right? That you're not afraid to take. And then through those little tiny mini steps, you eventually achieve your goal. Yeah.
That was one of the things that I noted. I wrote all through this book as well, but I wrote dream big, but start small and get your brain used to that good feeling. Like sometimes it's just, that little tiny step can get us less fearful and on our way.
And I think a lot of us don't do the end game reflection and say, oh my God, I did that, or someone will say, hey, way to go. And you're like, oh, you can't, like, I think it was Jennifer that said, you can't say thank you, right? Or you can't say, oh yeah, I did that. And that's when we get the imposter syndrome, right? That we never accept that we actually did something. We're always giving away our success. And, to be able to stop and say, hey, I did that, we don't have to be rude about it or arrogant about it, but just to be able to even reflect and say, yeah, you know what? I did that. I feel good about that. And I'm going to accept that. That then just reinforces our confidence again. But we often forget to celebrate those wins and those successes, no matter how small they are.
I think in our Growth Alliance group, we talk about that a lot with women in particular. We're taught to be good girls growing up, and good girls don't brag. and they don't bring attention to themselves, and that's kind of how we were brought up. And it's hard to kind of break that habit of, I practice with a couple of my friends and I say, okay, I'm really excited about this thing at work. It's going to sound like I'm bragging. And they're like, no, tell me. But I think just saying that out loud helps me I really want to practice sharing this really good news with somebody besides in my head.
Yeah.
So finding that friend you can share with, I think is nice too.
Perfect example of that. My nieces, when they were here last year, we went to the zoo, and my niece, Jada, she was 10, she was telling one of the volunteers there that was working, she's like, I have a horse. And my inclination was to tell her to stop bragging. And I was like, you know what? That girl's 10 years old and she got a horse. Let her tell the world, Yeah. I did not stop her. Because what harm was she doing by telling some lady she has a horse? Who cares? But my instinct was to tell her to quit bragging to this lady. Who cares? You know what I mean?
And we tend to, like, the male female aspects of like how we are brought up. We are brought up in two kind of different worlds. I do think where, the boys are like, great job, and the girls are like, oh, just be.
Yeah.
And
I wondered that too. I was like, if she was a boy, would I had the same inclination or not,
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jody, how about you? I feel like, bring it, girl.
Oh, so much to say that my mind is like a little bit all over the place, but this was a really fitting book for it seems like these books are timed with what's happening in each of our journey. I don't know. I was like, the first couple of pages in, I was like, oh, this one's gonna hit right at home, and it did. So there was a quote you had in here. It said, if you want to live in an authentic life, you need the courage to defend your unique definition of success. And I was like, wow. So authentic is one of my core value words. And as I have learned to develop my role in all the things that I do, being authentic to me has been an utmost. But I'll tell you, it really gets sticky sometimes when you are in positions where, and it was another thing that you said was that somebody was mistaking your skills for your passion. And I was like, okay, wait a minute, let's talk about that for a second. Authentic skills, authentic passion. It could be same, could be different, could be, how you define them. And it was just a moment where I was like, okay, what am I really about? What is my authentic self, and where am I being true to myself? Because the other thing that came out was that self-efficacy, which Lisa had pointed out to me because I had reached out to her last week on something. She's like, are you at this chapter yet? And I was like, no, not yet. She's like, you're going to need to read it now. So it was funny because, as soon as you say yes to you and your authentic self, the things do line up. And that's where you get those little nuggets and those little pieces that build you up for the confidence to do the next thing. And then the final thing was your mentors, and surrounding yourself with people who get it, you can call and you can be like, hey, this thing happened, and not be like, oh, they're going to be jealous, or they're going to like poo-poo it. Or you can call them and say, I'm doing this thing and I'm scared to death. And they're like, yay.
Yeah.
Hey, for you. Woohoo, be scared. It's all good. I'm there for you. And to be in a place where you can be your authentic self. And so I would say, this year, it's been about a year. I've had mentors before. But this year I really pushed myself to be in groups like this and be connected with other women who are moving forward, so that you can have that system in place to go to when you are having a moment, or many moments in particular given weeks, of complete and utter self-doubt. And you can just be like, you can just lay it in front of them and be like, hey, I'm really struggling here. And to have that support system so that they can remind you, what you told them about your authentic self and your goals and how to realign it. So it was, it's very just fitting for where I am. I think in my own journey, there's a lot. This is going to be a book on the top of my, like, right handy, because there's just a lot of tools in here that I'll use for myself, but also that I can give to clients when they're struggling, because you see a lot of the same things come up, and they're just, it's just a different tool to be able to change perception, you know, so you get a different perspective on what's happening in their world. So really useful, really enjoyed it, and will definitely be I'll probably read this one many, many times.
Oh, that's great, Julie. That's wonderful. Thank you.
So we have a couple. Consuela, did you have any thoughts after just listening to everyone? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I ordered the book while we were sitting here.
Yay!
So I think it'll actually be beneficial since I'm just in this transition phase, moving out of someone else ruling my life into taking over myself. So I'm looking forward to reading it, Louisa.
Nice. Okay. Well, good luck with your new journey.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything else to add?
I was just going to say, I really appreciate the personal stories. I don't know if Kim talked about sort of like the formula for a great book, but I recognize that it takes courage to put real stories out there. And for me, a little bit of backstory. So my mom passed away right after I graduated college, and I read this book, Motherless Daughters, and it's phenomenal. And the book was so good for me because I wasn't alone. And so your book is just, and so I know intellectually I'm not unique with some of these thoughts and feelings and challenges, but to have someone say, you are not alone. This is not only, you know, an anomaly, it's common, and here's what you can do. I just really appreciated that.
Well, you know, it's really funny because I've always, like, for practically my whole life, I've always been able to tell my story. And I don't know why. Maybe because I just talk a lot, you know, I'm just always blabbing on. But I really think, and that a lot of people have said that to me as well, that it was through, because, oh, you screwed up in such a big way. I feel okay now. Like, I feel, you know, that I'm not alone. And, you know, that's what I love about the YouTube and stuff, because now young kids, you know, my daughter sees many examples of people making mistakes, and we didn't have that. I didn't have that growing up. I thought only I was the one that was screwing up all the time, or weird, or something was wrong with me. I always thought something was wrong with me, you know? And so to be able to share that story, in fact, today I was walking with Michelle McQuaid, who's big in positive psychology, and we both talked about this idea of being able to live your life anxiety free, you know, to feel like, I feel good about myself. I don't have to question everything all the time. It's like this, and that's really what I wanted to do in the book, is I wanted to give people, and my focus was on women, you know, this ability to joyfully go after what you wanted, not to like have to like, you know, pound and, you know, have to really struggle every moment and feel anxiety to achieve your goals, but instead to feel joyous as you achieve your goals. And I think you can do that when you're not always questioning yourself all the time. So thanks for saying that, because I think the stories are really, really important to everything. And it after I do talks, for example, people will come up to me and say, you know, oh my gosh, like, that story was phenomenal. Thank you. And let me tell you my story. And then their story is like 10 times worse than my story. And I think, oh my gosh, I mean, and then you realize everybody has a story. Everyone has a story, and you just have so much more compassion and empathy, because you think, wow, like, my story doesn't even compare to their story. So it can be, I think, really uniting when we share story.
I think one of the things, you know, I find is that that's such a vulnerability piece, to be able to share a story. And, you know, when you do share a story to the right group that can support it, it can be life-changing.
Yes.
And I think oftentimes maybe we don't, because we've shared stories before and you get the answers that you don't really need, or the response you don't really need. And we just learn to kind of keep it here. And, you know, I think if anything is to encourage to keep finding, you know, everybody says, find your tribe. You know, you need to find your tribe. And I think all of us think, okay, it's just me. Everybody else looks like they're fine. And you're thinking, I am not fine.
Yeah.
I am really not fine. So when you are able to be vulnerable in the right group, the right tribe, it can be really life-changing for you to be able to gain the confidence you need to open up again, or to deal with the self-doubt that comes from just feeling like you're different, and then realizing, okay, so you might be a little different, and who cares? Let's, what are we doing with it?
Yes.
As Lisa calls, your unique brilliance, which I thought was like the best term I've heard. That's you, and you're doing your authentic self, and that's the key. So finding your tribe is huge, and you're right, it's so much easier to do, than it was 20 years ago.
Yes, and I think too, in order for you to be vulnerable, I think you need to have a really deep love and acceptance of yourself, so that you can say, I can tell my story and 10 people might go, wow, what's wrong with you? And I really don't care, because I know in my heart that I feel good about myself, and that I am perfectly flawed, and I'm okay with that, right? To stand steadfast in like, yeah, I'm not perfect, and that's okay. And even when you're not in your tribe, when you really do feel that steadfast in who you are and loving yourself, and someone might look at you funny, it doesn't bother you as much, because you can say that, you can go, yeah, they're not my tribe, right? I know
that's a huge piece, I think, recognizing and being okay with, okay, that person that doesn't fit for me, or a situation, or a whatever it is, that just doesn't fit, and that's okay. You don't have to think about it. It doesn't fit.
Love you, and you've got your thing, and I'm over here, and everyone's good, and I don't have to be mad about it or anything. You know what I mean? It's just this and that's the thing. But to find your tribe, I think that people who really get you and who really celebrate you, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. It's such a source of strength, like such a source of strength, that I cannot even put a measure. I can't even put a value on how much my girlfriends mean to me. Like their everyday support, their everyday encouragement, their everyday celebration of everything I do, and me back to them. And, it's priceless. It's really priceless. I'm part of a mastermind group with a few other women too. And I have to tell you, it is the best thing that has propelled my business forward over the years. We just need it. We need that tribe. It's so critical.
I agree. And I think when you said like being okay with the outside world not really liking you, I think for me, we learned about forgiveness in positive psychology. And it was always outward focused. Like I had to forgive people, and I had to do that. And I missed the part where I just forgave myself. And since I've started to practice forgiving myself from the past, it means less about what others think. And it's just been just such a nice relief to just say, yeah, those things did happen, and it's okay. Yeah. And having some of that self-compassion has allowed me to show up better for the people in my tribe, and just sleep better.
That's right. Wow. Right? That's really powerful. Forgiveness is really powerful. And a lot of the times people just don't even think of going there. And it really is a powerful tool. I mean, you don't want to forgive if someone's still abusing you all the time, right? Because then that's when you sort of can go too far and it's not helpful. But you're right, turning forgiveness onto yourself, that's really, really powerful. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that's happening.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I know we're coming up on the hour. I would think that maybe we'll have, I don't know about time constraints, but let's have Laura introduce the next book, and then maybe we can, if Louisa has a little bit of extra time, we can kind of wrap it up a little less formally afterwards. But I did want to mention that in the book, there is a mention of an ebook that Louisa's put, and it's her rumination book. And I had never heard the term rumination, but I think for women in particular, our worry is future focus. Our rumination is about my forgiveness for myself and when I'm not perfect and not trying to be perfect anymore. But look up that ebook. We'll share it in the group. It is a nice thing to help ourselves and our mothers and our daughters, and even just to recognize the term rumination I had never heard before. And that was like, wait, I stopped Louisa in class and said, wait, that's a word? We need to talk about that afterwards. Like, I stopped class over it. It was so powerful. If you're somebody that really beats yourself up about the past, it's a great ebook. So I really highly recommend it. And with that, Laura, did you want to introduce us to a little bit about next,
Sure.
just in case people have to hop off?
Yeah, so the Work the System is about systems, but it is told in story format. So I think it will be good for all of you to read it, because it's essentially one long story it's an autobiography. So him talking about starting a business and totally failing until he figured out systems. So it's a different total flip side from this topic, but at the same time, still essential to anyone being successful in their endeavors. So I really enjoyed it, and it's on the list because I just wanted to read it again, because the first time I went through, I knew there was a lot that I could have put into action and have not yet. So